Hi, I'm Jonathan Tanner, the founder of Root Cause, and in this video I'm going to talk to you a bit about our new report, Reframing AI, Beyond Risk and Regulation. We've used AI to find out more about how people perceive AI. For our research, we looked at 30,000 YouTube videos and more than 1,000 traditional media articles. To analyse them, we used what we think are innovative, maybe even world first, AI classification techniques to understand public discourse at scale. So, what did we find? We found 4 frames that sit across the public conversation about AI, and perhaps unsurprisingly, we found that big technology companies are doing a good job at aligning their argument with those frames. We also found that when it comes to traditional media, tech companies dominate the debate. When we looked at which people and organisations were quoted most often by journalists, male tech leaders like Elon Musk and Sundar Pichai were in a league of their own, with more quotes than most other voices in our sample put together. Worryingly, there were no civil society voices in the top 20 most quoted organisations, and only 2 of the most quoted individuals were women, so not exactly a balanced debate. Perhaps more surprisingly, we also find that the current focus on risk and regulation suits the big tech companies. It's easy for them to call for regulation and highlight how they might mitigate risks. That's why we think it would be a good idea for civil society organisations to focus more attention on the values by which new technologies are developed and deployed. There's loads more in the research, do take a look, but here are 5 questions we think are important for civil society. The first is, what do you want the future to look like? Our research shows really clearly that the risks surrounding AI are widely understood. There's a debate about which risks matter most, but there's no debate about the fact that AI is a cause for concern. Everybody agrees. What's less clear is if AI technologies are going to be widely used, what do we want them to be used for? If more and more of what it is to be a citizen happens online, then what is our vision for successful digital societies? The next question is whether the current focus on risk and regulation is too narrow. Regulation matters, and lots of the people we spoke to for our research were clear about what a good job European civil society organisations have done influencing the European Union's AI Act. But when it comes to building successful digital societies, regulation will only be one piece of the jigsaw. Our third question is, are you thinking one step ahead of your opponent? Tech companies have obscene amounts of power in the modern world. One aspect of this power is how much money they can spend on lobbying. Lots of people we spoke to told us how powerful the tech lobby is, but we also know it's definitely not unbeatable. We've got a good idea about what might come next. Tech companies setting out risk mitigation approaches, but perhaps failing to fund implementation. Voluntary standards and kite marking of AI by industry-funded bodies, and an open washing in an attempt to create an illusion of transparency. If we know this is coming, then we need strategies in place to deal with it. The penultimate question is whether skepticism about AI gets in the way. It's a noble part of the fabric of progressive organisations to be reflective, and where they see things that are less than perfect, to try and perfect them. Throughout our research, we heard quite a lot of scepticism about whether civil society organisations should be using AI at all at the moment. To us, this small c conservatism, whilst understandable, brings risks. After all, in the last decade, we've seen a few times, naming no names, what happens when regressive actors get ahead of the curve with new technology in the information environment. Being too slow to put AI to positive progressive use might bring similar unpalatable consequences down the line. Lastly, and bluntly, we ask whether there's enough investment in comms capacity. Our research shows that once the current AI hype dies down, there's no guarantee that the negative impact of AI systems will make headlines, even if it should. We also found it quite hard to find senior communications professionals to interview in organisations focusing on AI and public policy. And we found lack of clear vision about the kind of digital societies we want to build. These 2 things are connected, and the need to find and tell compelling stories about why concentrations of power in AI and devolutions of power from people to AI is going to be essential in the years ahead. Now's the right time to consider what smart communication on these issues will look like. For ideas about that and much more, do take a look at the report using the links below.